On March 14th, 2025, NASA lost contact with the International Space Station for 7 minutes. That was the official report. 7 minutes. A brief communication blackout caused by a solar storm that interfered with ground-to-orbit transmissions. The story barely made headlines. Most people never heard about it. The few who did forgot about it by the next morning. But there was one detail NASA never released. There was someone still awake when it happened. His name was Commander Daniel Mercer. Mercer was 42 years old, a former Navy pilot, a father, a husband, and one of the most experienced astronauts assigned to the station that year. He was not famous. He was not the kind of man who gave dramatic interviews or spoke like he wanted to be remembered. By every account, he was calm, patient, and almost impossible to scare. That is why the recovered audio is so hard to explain. At 2:13 a.m. Houston time, a solar flare disrupted communications between Earth and the ISS. Most systems recovered within minutes. Video returned, telemetry returned, power levels stabilized. But voice communication with Mercer did not. For 7 minutes, Mission Control heard nothing from him. Then his transmission came through. "Houston, this is Mercer. Do you copy?" They answered immediately. "Mercer, we copy. We lost you for a few minutes. Are you okay?" There was a pause. Then Mercer said something strange. "I'm not sure." Mission Control asked him to repeat. Mercer's breathing was heavy. "I heard someone." The controller asked if he meant another crew member. At that point, there were only 2 astronauts awake aboard the station. Mercer was in the Destiny laboratory. Flight engineer Anton Sokolov was in the Russian segment, nearly asleep, and later confirmed he had not spoken. Mercer said no. It came through the headset. Houston asked him to describe the voice. Mercer did not answer right away. When he finally spoke, he sounded embarrassed. He said, "It sounded like me." At first, NASA treated it as a technical issue. Radio feedback, signal bounce, a corrupted audio loop caused by the storm. These things can happen. Space is filled with interference, and after a solar event, strange noises are not unusual. Astronauts hear static, echoes, distorted speech, and tones that can sound almost human. But over the next several days, Mercer continued reporting the same thing. A voice on the backup frequency. His voice. It began with single words. "Daniel. Hello. Wait." Sometimes it would only breathe. Sometimes it would repeat things he had just said. But by March 19th, the voice started answering him. The first full exchange happened at 4:06 a.m. Mercer was alone in the US lab module, checking cable connections behind one of the panels. He had left his headset active so Houston could monitor him. On the recording, Mercer can be heard grunting as he pulls himself through the module. Then, a faint voice comes through the static. "Don't open that." Mercer freezes. "Houston?" Mission Control answers. "Go ahead, Mercer." Mercer whispers, "Did you just say something?" Houston says no. For 11 seconds, there is only static. Then the same voice returns, calm, close, almost gentle. "I said don't open that." Mercer pushes away from the panel. "Who is this?" The voice answers, "You know who it is." Houston tells Mercer to switch channels. He does. The voice follows. Mercer switches again. It follows again. By the 4th channel change, nobody in Mission Control is speaking. They are listening. Because the voice does not sound distorted anymore. It sounds exactly like Commander Daniel Mercer. Same Texas accent, same pauses, same low, tired way of speaking. Mercer asks, "Who are you?" The voice replies, "I'm Commander Daniel Mercer." Mercer laughs once, but there is no humor in it. "No, you're not." The voice answers, "Then why do I remember your daughter's birthday?" Mercer does not speak. The voice continues. June 8th. Then it says, she wanted the yellow bike. Mercer removes his headset. For 2 days, NASA told him not to engage with the transmissions. They explained that the solar storm may have damaged part of the station's communication system and created a looping error using old voice data. They said the mind can interpret random sound as familiar speech, especially under stress. Mercer accepted the explanation at first. He wanted to accept it. But the voice kept saying things no recording should have known. It remembered the name of his childhood dog. It remembered the song his wife Emily played on their first road trip. It remembered the exact words his mother said to him the night before his first deployment. None of that had ever been transmitted in space. None of it existed in NASA's audio archives. On March 24th, Mercer broke protocol and spoke to the voice for nearly 20 minutes. The transcript was never released publicly, but parts of it were later described by a contractor who claimed to have heard the file before it was sealed. Mercer asked the voice where it was. The voice answered, "Here." Mercer asked what that meant. The voice said, "Same as you." Mercer asked, "Are you on the station?" The voice said, "I think so." Mercer looked directly into the cabin camera and said, "Houston, are you hearing this?" Mission Control confirmed they were. Then Mercer asked the voice, "If you're me, what am I thinking right now?" The answer came immediately. "You're thinking about the lake." Mercer went still. The voice continued. "You're thinking about the day Lily fell off the dock. You jumped in with your shoes on. Emily laughed so hard she cried." Mercer's eyes filled with tears. The voice said, "You never told anyone this, but that was the first time you felt like a real father." Mercer whispered, "Stop." The voice replied, "I can't." After that, Mercer changed. The other astronauts noticed it first. He stopped sleeping for more than an hour at a time. He floated near the windows for long stretches, staring at Earth like he was trying to memorize it. He avoided speaking unless Houston asked him a direct question. The voice did not speak to the others, only Mercer. When Sokolov wore Mercer's headset, there was nothing. When another astronaut monitored the frequency, only static came through. But the second Mercer put it back on, the voice returned. Sometimes it sounded afraid, sometimes angry. Sometimes it whispered things too quietly for Houston to understand. On March 29th, Mercer asked the question nobody wanted him to ask. What happened during the blackout? Houston told him again that communication had been interrupted for 7 minutes. Mercer said, "That's not true." The flight director asked what he meant. Mercer looked into the camera. It was longer. Houston checked the logs. 7 minutes. Mercer shook his head. "No, I was gone longer than that." The voice came through his headset. "You weren't gone." Mercer closed his eyes. The voice said, "You were copied." Nobody spoke in Mission Control. Mercer slowly opened his eyes. "What did you say?" The voice repeated, "You were copied." The recording filled with static. Then the voice said something that made 3 NASA technicians leave the room. I don't know which one came back. From that moment on, NASA treated the situation as a medical emergency. They began preparing an early return plan. Publicly, it was listed as a routine crew rotation adjustment. Privately, Mercer was monitored every hour. Doctors asked him memory questions. Mission Control ran system checks. Engineers inspected every communications relay connected to the station. Nothing explained the second voice. By April 3rd, the voice had become almost constant. It no longer waited for Mercer to speak. It interrupted checklists. It whispered during meals. It repeated prayers Mercer had not said since he was a child. At 1:32 a.m., Mercer covered the cabin camera with a piece of cloth. Houston ordered him to remove it. He did not respond. For 9 minutes, only audio remained. Mercer could be heard breathing. Then the other voice said, "Daniel." Mercer answered, "No." The voice said, "You have to stop talking to me." Mercer whispered, "You're the one who keeps coming back." "I know," the voice said. It sounded different now, less like something mocking him, more like something suffering. "I remember more every time you answer." Mercer said nothing. The voice continued. "At first, I only remembered the station, then Houston, then your name, then Emily, then Lily." It began to cry. It was Daniel Mercer crying. I wasn't supposed to love them. Mercer's breathing changed. The voice said, "But I do." For the first time in all the recordings, Mercer sounded truly afraid. "What are you?" The voice answered, "I don't know." "Where are you?" "I don't know." "Are you alive?" A long silence. Then, "Are you?" The next morning, Mercer removed the cloth from the camera. He looked like he had aged 10 years overnight. He told Houston he would no longer respond to the voice. For a while, that seemed to work. The transmissions became weaker, less frequent. Sometimes the voice would only say his name once, then fade into static. Mercer stopped answering. On April 9th, it begged, "Daniel, please." No response. "I don't want to be alone." No response. "Please, talk to me." Mercer pressed both hands against the sides of his head but said nothing. The voice began repeating the names of his family. Emily, Lily, Emily, Lily, over and over. Still, Mercer did not answer. That was the last time the voice sounded human. After that, it began to change. Not in tone, not in pitch. It still sounded like Daniel Mercer. But the things it said were wrong. It asked why Earth was upside down. It asked why its hands did not move when it told them to. It asked why it could remember drowning when Mercer had never drowned. It asked why it could see the station from outside. On April 12th, it whispered, "I can see you through the window." Mercer did not look. Houston told him to move away from the cupola. He did. The station cameras showed nothing outside except darkness, Earth, and the faint reflection of Mercer's own face in the glass. The return capsule docked 2 days later. Mercer was supposed to come home. The other crew members prepared for departure. For a few hours, everything seemed normal. Then, 30 minutes before boarding, Mercer refused to leave. He said there was something wrong with the capsule. Engineers found no issue. Houston ordered him to board. Mercer said, "If I go down there, how will you know it's me?" Nobody had an answer that satisfied him. The mission commander tried to physically guide him toward the hatch. Mercer pushed him away. Not violently, desperately, like a man refusing to walk into a fire. Then the voice returned through the open channel, not over Mercer's private headset, over the station speakers, all of them, every module, every speaker, at once. "Daniel." Everyone aboard froze. The voice said, "Don't leave me here." Mercer looked toward the ceiling. His face went pale. The voice said, "If you go home, they'll think you're me." Mercer whispered, "Stop." The voice answered, "Which one of us are you?" The crew evacuated without him. That is the part NASA never explained. Officially, Commander Daniel Mercer suffered a psychological emergency aboard the ISS and was unable to return on schedule. Officially, he remained under medical observation in orbit, while another return option was prepared. That was the last public mention of his name. The second capsule was launched quietly. No press event, no smiling crew photos, no live coverage beyond the standard docking feed. When the recovery team boarded the ISS, they expected to find Mercer alive or dead. They found neither. The station was empty. His sleeping bag was still attached to the wall. His personal items were still packed. A photo of Emily and Lily floated near the air filter, folded down the middle. There was no blood, no damage, no sign of struggle. no open hatch, no missing suit. Commander Daniel Mercer was gone, but the recordings remained. 6 months of system logs, camera footage, private audio, and thousands of conversations between Daniel Mercer and a voice identical to his own. In some recordings, Mercer is calm. In others, he is screaming. In others, the second voice screams back. But in the final recovered file, recorded less than an hour before the rescue team arrived, there is only whispering. Mercer says, "I'm sorry." The other voice says, "Don't leave me." Mercer says, "I don't know how to save both of us." The voice asks, "Both?" Mercer does not answer. The final sound is not static. It is not a scream. It is not an alarm. It is a soft, metallic knock. 3 times. From somewhere outside the station. Then silence. The rescue crew left after less than 40 minutes. NASA never released their full debrief. 2 of them retired within the year. 1 refused to speak publicly again. The official report says Commander Daniel Mercer was lost due to an unknown incident aboard the International Space Station in 2025. But the last piece of audio was not found in Mercer's files. It was found in the helmet camera of a recovery astronaut. As the crew prepared to exit the station, one of them looked back into the dark laboratory module and said, "What do you think happened to him?" Another answered, "Doesn't matter. He's gone." Then a speaker behind them crackled. A dead speaker, disconnected, no power, no signal, no reason to make sound. The astronauts froze. For 6 seconds, there was only static. Then Daniel Mercer's voice came through. Weak, calm, close. It said only 2 words. "Which one?" The crew left immediately. The recording ended before anyone replied. NASA later claimed the audio was corrupted, but people who heard it said the worst part was not the voice. It was what came after. Because just before the file cuts off, beneath the static, another sound can be heard. A second Daniel Mercer, farther away, crying and begging the first one not to answer.